Morning, guys. Yes, I'm here again just for another rant. I should call this channel the Rants channel, not Bushcraft, Wild Camping, and reviews. But I promise you there will be channels on that. I'm still working on, because I've actually lost some knives, believe it or not. Well, I've not lost them, I've more like misplaced them in my dad's somewhere. So I'm in the current process of starting my basics of bushcraft for you guys, for the beginners, the amateurs who's just starting out, what knives to choose, what knives on a budget that I recommend. But obviously I've not uploaded that yet because I've still got some, and I've got a knife missing that I want to use specifically for that video. But no, so I've just done a video about a rant about health and safety and what oils to use on knives. And I'm going to have another rant now, which is another thing that gets on my mind, plays on my mind a lot, is what is classed as a survival knife. Okay, this is a kind of a touchy subject to a lot of people. Now, a lot of people has opinions about this. What is a survival knife? And some people say a survival knife is basically and the knife that you have with you at the time of you having to get yourself in a real survival situation. Maybe something's gone terribly wrong, and the only knife that you've got with you is the knife that you're going to be used to get yourself out the mess that you got yourself in the first place. So imagine like this is the only knife that you've took out with you, then this becomes your knife for survival. Okay, this will have to do most tasks for you, like fires, process wood, and don't know how, but build a shelter somehow with a 4.5-5 inch blade, which is what this is. So that's one theory. That's what some people class as a survival knife. So that's number one. The knife that you've got with you, any knife that you've got with you, is a survival knife. Okay, and another common thing that people say is a survival knife is supposed to be, in all intents and purposes, exactly what it is, a survival knife. So basically, survival knife is going to be used for everything in the field. So it's going to be used to chop down trees for shelter, for processing game, processing wood, firewood, etc. So your one tool needs to do all of that and more. Okay, so that's one theory what a survival knife should be. So on one end of the scale you've got a survival knife. What's classed as a survival knife is the knife that you have with you at any given moment. Okay, and then the other end of the scale is a survival knife is basically a knife that can do it all, but master of none. Okay, so where do I fit in with this? With in between, I thought long and hard about this, and I would actually be more inclined to go with this side of the scale, which is a survival knife is a one tool option to do all of your tasks, but master of none. Okay, so it can build shelters, it can process game, it can process your kindling for your fire, it can do all those things, okay, without anything else. Okay, so without a backup saw, without an axe. So if you've got only one knife with you, and you are teaching survival, or you are going to be using it for survival for many weeks on end, and you've just got that one knife, then that is, to me, that is your survival knife. That is a survival knife. That is what it's for. Okay. Now at the other end of the scale is a survival knife is any knife that you've got with you, okay, that you're going to be used for survival. Okay. Now let's me explain what I need. What I need. What I mean is, let's say you're in the middle of nowhere, you're going on a camping trip, and you've got no experience in bushcraft or anything like that. It's just purely for the enjoyment. Maybe you've got the wife and kids taken away for the weekend on a weekend camp, and suddenly middle of nowhere your car breaks down. Okay. And the only thing this guy has got in his rucksack is a Swiss Army knife. Okay, so then he takes his Swiss Army knife and he looks at all the ways he can use that one tool option, because that is the only tool that he's took with him. Okay, he wasn't expecting to break down in the middle of nowhere. He wasn't expecting things to go wrong. Not many of us do. But a lot of us are more like-minded and prepare for such incidents to happen to the more experienced. But this guy, he's not a bushcrafter. He's got no knowledge of the outdoors or bushcraft or survival or anything like that. He's just taking his wife and kids camping. His car breaks down, and the only thing he's got to use as a tool is a little Swiss Army knife. Okay. Then that becomes his survival tool. Okay, but because of the size and what it is, and it's not a fixed blade, okay, it is very limited to what it can do for its survival. Okay, yes, it's better to have a survival a Swiss Army knife than nothing at all. You know, at least you've got a tool to do something. Okay, you've got a tool to make some feather sticks, for kindling. Not that he'll know what feather sticks is. He might know, he might not know. Obviously, he's got no experience in bushcraft. Well, that is his one tool. Whether or not he looks for other things or other ways to get himself out of trouble, then that's fine. He's probably his better option is probably to sleep in the car if his car's big enough, so he's out the cold, he's out the wind, and things like that. It's probably going to be the better option for him. That's for somebody that's got no experience in the outdoors, unless extreme survival, where you are lost, you've got no vehicle whatsoever, and it's a totally new environment, and the only tool you've got with you again is a Swiss Army knife or similar pocket knife. Okay, so again, that's the only tool that you've got. Okay, that is just a tool. Okay. Now, I'm surmising. I don't know the history. I'm a massive knife buff. Me, as you can tell, about 90% of my content on this channel so far is about knives. But unfortunately, I don't know, it's embarrassing to say, a lot about Swiss Army knives. I've owned quite a few Swiss Army knives, but I've never looked up the history on where Swiss Army knives, keep saying survival knives, I mean Swiss Army knives came from. So I don't know a lot about them, who invented them. I'm presuming the Swiss Army or similar invented it. I don't know. That's why it's called Swiss Army knife. Or why it was invented. Was it invented as a camping tool? Was it invented as a survival knife? But either way, you're very limited. It has limitations on what you can use it for survival. If you happen to have a model of the Swiss Army knife where it's got quite a few tools on it, small blade, little blade, a saw so you can cut through some wood, probably this size, for the fire, then that's fine. Some Swiss Army knives don't actually have that. Some have different tools, you know, like the Swiss Champ, which is one of the top models, or used to be. That has pretty much got everything, you know, toothpicks, scissors, different blades, sewing awl, even the magnifying glass, you know, files and things of that nature. But again, is it a survival knife? Could you survive with that knife? Obviously, if you've got no option, then yes, you'd have to survive with that Swiss Army knife. But was it purposely designed as a survival knife? Okay, that's a different story. But I would still, to this day, I would still stand with this part of the scale of a survival knife. Is basically was built and made for survival. Okay, because a survival knife for me is a knife that can do everything but master of none. Okay, so the criteria of a survival knife to me, okay, this is my opinion, is it has to be able to chop. Okay, a survival knife has to be able to chop. Okay, because if you haven't got an axe, haven't got a saw, then you have to use that knife for chopping. Okay, it has to be full tang. Okay, full tang, obviously everybody knows. If you're new to knives on this channel and new to bushcraft, etc., then full tang knife means that the steel goes all the way through, like this. So from tip to tail, all the way along, that's one piece of steel. Okay, that is what's called a full tang knife. Okay, so this is a full tang knife. It's fully exposed, I can see through the scales. So one full tang knife is one piece of steel, and when you've got one piece of steel that goes all the way through the handle, it makes the knife that little bit stronger. Okay, so if you've got a knife, say that you've got your blade here, and the tang only goes maybe 2/3 or maybe just short of a half. I suppose you can call it a rat tail tang or whatever it's called. So yeah, that's not full tang. Okay, so the risk is more considerably higher, depending what you're going to be using it for, of that blade snapping. Although many kukris have a rat tail tang, especially some of the traditional ones, which you can still buy, and you know, some of the knives that I've used from Nepal, kukris from Nepal, have rat tail tangs, and they've been absolutely fine. I've never had a kukri that's broke at the tang. The tip, yes, but not the tang. Okay, but anyway, that's my second criteria of a bushcraft knife. Okay, it has to be able to chop, heavy duty chopping. It has to be full tang, which basically obviously adds strength to your knife when you use it for heavy duty. And obviously it has to be sharp, razor sharp. It has to be relatively thick. So when I say survival knife, 9 times out of 10 I'll probably say it has to be 5mm or more to be classed as a heavy duty. To me, this is only my opinion, heavy duty survival knife. So 5mm or more in thickness to make it even more stronger. Okay, for things like batoning and things like that. Okay, so it's got to be really, really solid, like built like a tank. Okay. Choice of steels. Again, for me, it would have to be carbon steel. Nothing wrong with obviously stainless steel, it's just that I prefer carbon steel. Carbon steel to me tends to be a lot easier to sharpen in the field. It tends to, carbon steel for me, it tends to put a better edge on it than you can stainless steels. A lot easier to sharpen, as I just said. But obviously, again, stainless steel has an advantage over carbon steel is that it takes a lot slower. The process takes a lot slower to rust and to stain and things like that. So it lasts that little bit longer than carbon steel. But as long as you look after carbon steel, then you're perfectly fine. That would be my go-to tool, would be carbon steel. Okay, over all others. Okay, so a good grade carbon steel. Okay, that would also fall into the criteria of a good survival knife. Okay, obviously it has to be able to chop, baton, skin if need be. So the very edge profile needs to be thin enough, or at least part of the blade needs to be thin enough to be able to do delicate tasks like skinning, descaling fish and things like that. Okay, so that comes into the survival knife criteria. Okay, and I think the last thing, I can't think of anything else, the last thing probably it has to have a lanyard hole, so that you can put some sort of cordage or your shoelace or anything like that to put through the lanyard hole and wrap around your wrist or your thumb or whatever. That's when you're doing heavy duty chopping, you've got no risk of that tool flying out your hands and hitting your best mate. And that's probably about it. Okay, so that's my criteria of what a survival knife should be. Okay, it's a survival knife should be a one tool option, but master of none. And the reason why I say master of none, because no knife I've ever used in over 20 years, okay, is 100% good at everything, absolutely everything. Okay, because to me so far, nobody has invented a knife that can do everything 100% perfect. Okay, so it can skin, descale, chop, baton with, and whittle with. Okay, to me there's no such thing at the minute. I'm not saying there will be, but at the minute I've not come across a knife that can do everything absolutely perfect. Okay, that's why we choose to have different knives with us in the field. Okay, so that's what I class as a survival knife that is built for survival. Okay, so you go to your custom maker or you go to a shop, you buy, let's say for argument's sake, a Tops tracker knife, Tops Tom Brown tracker knife, that I also have. Obviously that can skin, that can chop, it is full tang, it's over 5mm thick, it's basically built like a tank, you know. It has got serrations on the spine so you can do notching and if need be use it as a saw, although it's not designed for a saw. Its original intentions was to scrape bark and also to put notches in wood, so it's not really, it wasn't really designed as a saw. But that is a one tool option that can do it all but master of none. Okay, so that to me is what is classed as a survival knife. Okay, I don't think, again this is my opinion, survival knife is the knife that you have with you at any given time, because that knife that you have with you at any given time, say if it's a folding knife, that's not really a survival knife. Okay, that is a knife that can probably get you out the mess that you're in, but it wasn't designed to be a survival knife. Okay, so if you've got a folding pocket knife, you can't use that for chopping, you can't use that for batoning, unless you absolutely need to find a way to do it. Okay, so straight away there is two negatives, which doesn't fall into my criteria of being a proper survival knife. Okay, so that's two things. Okay, so but you can probably do everything else with it. You can skin with it, descale fish with it, you know, process to a certain degree, process wood with it, although it'll take you a little bit longer because obviously it's a smaller knife, folding knife, but it wasn't designed for survival. Okay, so that's my opinions, that's my theories of what a survival knife should be. So when you look at some of my all-time favourite films, you know, like Rambo, where he's running around with the classic 80s Rambo knife with the saw edge, the serrated edge, and the hollowed handle which contains a compass and things, you know. When I was growing up and watching films like that, I thought, yes, that's the knife I want, you know, then I can go out in the woods and survive like he did, you know. But as you get older and you get more experience in the field of bushcraft, you realise that's not the the correct knife to have. You know, I would never have a knife now with a hollowed out handle, because it's not going to be structural sound. There's a lot of other heavy duty knives that I own. You know, there was always a risk that it's going to break. And I've held some of the original Rambo knives, or most of the replicas, and you know, they're not really well made knives. I've snapped quite a few of them. I snapped ones with the hollowed out handles that's made out of aluminium, which is on, used to be on some of the early ones. And then some ones have plastic handles, hollowed out handles, which are even worse because the plastic just snaps in half, and you got it's in two pieces. You know, that then was classed as a survival knife, but purely for entertainment purposes, you couldn't really class that as a survival knife, because it wouldn't last very long if you tried to chop a tree down and make a shelter with it, you know, not without the handle breaking. But yeah, there's two different ends of the scale, you know, what a survival knife should be, and there is a lot of misconception, and there is a lot of people that's blinded by it. These fancy looking knife, just because a knife looks fancy doesn't mean it's going to serve you well in a real survival situation that you plan to use it for. Now, notice I said plan to use it for a survival, you know, which is totally different to being in a real survival situation. Okay, so which is, again, it's totally different. So I tend to avoid a lot of the fancy knives with a curved edge with like a clip point on one end, hollowed out handles, and a saw on it, like of a lot of some of the SOG knives or the Mueller knives have as well. I try to stay clear away from all those knives, because I rather have knives like that to hang on my wall to look at than to use it in the field. Because to me they're kind of showboaters knives, you know, they're not really designed for that kind of thing. Although SOG do make some incredibly good knives, but some are no good for that kind of purpose that fall into my criteria. So people can be blinded by it. So just because a knife looks good and might look good in the movies, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good in real life. Not that I've been in many survival situations, because I haven't. I'm only speaking of from a bushcraft point of view. You know, if I was alone in the wild, and you know, what knife would I want with me rather than a folding knife or a folding lock knife or something like that. So I'm explaining to you what knife I would rather have with me, what I would class as a survival knife, okay, which would be far different to a folding knife. And again, this was an argument on the Facebook groups. I always keep mentioning bushcraft Facebook groups, because most of the things that you see and hear are on them groups. And a lot of people say, yeah, but you can do everything with a folding knife. If you can do everything with a folding knife and it works for you, then that's absolutely fine. But for me, a folding knife is very limited to what I certainly that I need it for, what I am going to use it for. You know, you're not going to be able to chop with it, you're not going to be able to baton with it, and if that's the only knife that you've got with you, you're going to struggle. Now, if you've got a folding knife and an axe, that's totally different. Okay, so you've got an axe for do your chopping and your batoning, and then you've got a folding knife to do everything else, and then that is perfectly fine. But for the people that just says all you need is a folding knife, nothing else, then no. I think you're kind of missing the point. Okay, and you know, if you think that you can do absolutely everything with a Swiss Army knife and no other tool, then you know, leave your comments down below and show me a video or some sort of evidence of me, of you, sorry, using just a Swiss Army knife for everything in survival. So I want you to make a shelter with it. I want you to make process your food with it, your wood with it, and everything else. Not to take the mick, I would like to see how you do it, you know. And there might be people out there, maybe Felix, who does a lot of the videos with a Swiss Army knife. Now, that guy's knowledge on Swiss Army knives and what he uses the Swiss Army knives for is absolutely fantastic. So check out his channel. And he's wrote books, several books as well, on the subject of Swiss Army knife. His name is Felix. And what that guy can do with a Swiss Army knife is absolutely, it blows my mind sometimes. It's absolutely amazing. But he is one of a very rare few that can probably use it in the field to his advantage for survival, okay? Because he has complete confidence in his skill and ability of using that. But it still wouldn't be my option just to have that Swiss Army knife or a folding knife for survival. Any knife's better than none, but when we're talking about real survival, you know, then that in the outdoors, in the wilderness, then that is totally different. Okay, so like I say, you know, I've no absolutely zero survival skills for the outdoors to survive for you know, years. You know, yes, I know quite a lot of bushcrafting and wild camping techniques and things, so I would be comfortable. But for like heavy duty hardcore building a log cabin and things like that, then it's something that I've never done before, you know. And the day I live in the UK, you know, I've never built a log cabin before, so well, that's what I'm trying to say. So to me, that would be classed as a heavy duty survival knife. Has to fall in them criterias, whereas the other end of the scale, you know, that to me wouldn't be classed as a survival knife. So when people say survival knife is the knife that you've got with you, yes, in a way that's kind of true, but the knife that you've got with you, if it's a Swiss Army knife or a folding knife or similar, then that wasn't designed specifically for survival. Okay, so it's not really a survival knife. It's rather a knife that can get you, that might help you to get out of a survival situation better than anything else that you've got with you. Okay, so it's, you know, it's kind of a hit and miss question. You know, what do you think? Leave your comments down below and let me know what you think, if you agree with me or don't agree with me. I mean, you know, if you don't agree with me, then that is perfectly fine. This is what these discussions are about. You know, but again, if you don't agree with anything that I say in my channels and you think it's total BS, then rather than just saying, leaving a comment and saying this is BS, or you don't know what you're talking about, okay, right? I'm open-minded, okay? So if you know different, leave your comments down below and tell me, give me a reason. If you do something different, give me a reason, rather than saying BS, you don't know what you're talking about, and then leave it at that, okay? Just to try and cause an argument, you know, because you know, even if you put things like that, it absolutely doesn't bother me. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. So if it is BS, then tell me, give me a reason why you think it's BS, you know, because all I'm going to do, I'm just going to laugh at you. And if it starts to come to a thing where it's going to start being abusive, then I'll just block you. I'll take you off my channel. It's as simple as that. So you know, you're free to do whatever you want. You're free to comment whatever you want down below, but give me a reason for it. You know, if you think I'm full of BS, then put me reasons for it. If you've got a lot more knowledge than you might have than me, then put your reasons for it. You know, I want to hear it. I really do want to hear it, because you know, you learn skills every single day. You learn, especially in the world of bushcrafting, using knives and things, you learn something new every single day, including me. I am still learning. After all these years, I am still learning about everything. Okay, and that's the beauty of bushcraft. Okay, that is the beauty of using tools, different kinds of tools and knives and things. That is the beauty of it. So give me your reasons why. Don't just comment and say you don't agree with me. Why don't you agree with me? Okay, I want to hear it. I generally do want to hear it. Why? Okay. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that, because you know what I'm like. I just waffle on for ages. And I'm going to make a cup of tea. I'm going to head off home because I can't stay out for too long today. And so I've got things to do, and I'm going to be trying to get out to the woods anytime soon. because I'm getting withdrawal symptoms. So a lot of my videos has been obviously sat here in this room and showing you things, but I need to get out in the field and shoot some more videos. So half an hour, guys. Again, sorry. Tell me what you think. I'll leave your comments down below. See you again in the next video. Thanks for watching. Ta-da.